Before we dive into this wild ride, tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? I love hearing just how far these Karen tales of chaos and karma can travel. The plane smelled of recycled air and faint citrus cleaner, the sort of sterile calm that always set my nerves on edge before takeoff. Buck, my golden retriever, lay at my feet, his head resting on the armrest of the seat I had purchased for him. His vest read service dog in bold white letters against black nylon, a quiet badge of legitimacy that usually kept people from questioning why a dog had his own seat. I'd gone out of my way, paying extra, to ensure he had the space he needed to do his job without interference. At 38, I had learned that preparation was survival, both for myself and the dog who steadied me when the world tilted too hard. The cabin was alive with the clatter of passengers stowing bags, buckling belts, calling out for attendance. For once, I thought I might actually get through boarding without incident. Then came the voice, sharp, demanding, carrying over the rows with the entitled confidence of someone who believed the rules bent for her. There it is. Perfect. Finally some space. I turned, and that was when I saw her. A woman maybe 40, blonde hair curled and stiff with hairspray, squeezing down the narrow aisle like she owned the aircraft. A heavy-set figure wrapped in a sleeveless pink dress with a neckline that seemed better suited for a cocktail party than an afternoon flight. Clutched against her hip was a little girl, no more than 2, cheeks flushed from fussing, a pacifier dangling on a string. The woman's eyes landed on the empty seat beside Buck, and in that instant I knew trouble had just walked on board. She didn't ask. She didn't hesitate. She simply marched forward and announced, "I'll put my baby here." Finally, some room to breathe. My pulse tightened. "Excuse me, ma'am," I said, keeping my voice calm. "That seat's taken. I purchased it for my service dog." Her head snapped toward me, eyes flashing with incredulity. "You bought a seat for a dog?" Before I could answer, she leaned in, as if daring me to challenge her authority. "No, absolutely not. This is ridiculous. You expect me to hold my baby the whole flight when there's a perfectly good seat sitting empty." Buck stirred, sensing my rising tension. His ears perked, but he stayed calm, steady as always. I rested my hand on his head. "It's not empty. It's his seat. He's working." The woman gave a scoffing laugh, one loud enough to draw the attention of nearby passengers. "Working? He's a dog. My daughter is a human child. Surely, you can see who deserves the seat more." She began maneuvering the toddler onto the cushion, yanking at the belt as though ownership were a matter of speed. I blocked her hand, firm but polite. "Ma'am, I paid for this seat. FAA allows service animals their own seat when purchased. If you needed one for your daughter, you should have bought it when you booked." That struck a nerve. Her face reddened, lips pulling into a snarl. "Are you seriously telling me you care more about a mutt than a child? What kind of monster are you?" The insult landed heavy in the air, drawing gasps and murmurs from surrounding passengers. A man across the aisle shook his head, while a woman 2 rows up whispered to her companion, "She didn't even buy the seat?" Phones appeared, subtle at first, screens angled toward us, recording the clash. I breathed slowly, the way I always did when panic edged close. Buck nudged my leg, grounding me. "This isn't about choosing between them," I said evenly. "This is about responsibility. You made a choice not to buy your daughter a ticket. I made a choice to buy one for my service dog." She flung her hand dramatically, nearly hitting the overhead bin. "Responsibility? I'm a mother. Do you even understand how hard it is traveling with a child? The airline should be ashamed for letting you waste a seat like this." Her daughter whimpered, pressing against her chest as the woman's voice sharpened to a shout. Attendants glanced our way, but were trapped helping other passengers. The aisle filled with the buzz of conflict, the kind that turned strangers into an impromptu jury. I lowered my voice, hoping reason might cut through her frenzy. "Ma'am, I don't want to argue, but this seat isn't yours. Please, don't make this harder." She sneered, jabbing a finger toward Buck. "Dogs don't need seats. He can sit on the floor. My baby deserves safety." The cabin seemed to shrink around me, every eye pinned on the unfolding standoff. I could feel the weight of judgment, the silent question echoing. Was I really going to let a child suffer for the sake of a dog? My chest burned with the unfairness of it. She wasn't asking for kindness. She was demanding theft, dressed up as virtue. Buck shifted again, pressing his head against my hand. His calm was my tether, but even I could sense this wasn't ending with words alone. The woman clutched the belt as though claiming it by force of will, her daughter sliding onto the seat she had no right to. My voice hardened. If you can't hold your child, you should have planned better. Don't take it out on me. Her eyes widened with fury, mouth twisting into something primal. If you don't move, I'll make you move. The passengers stirred at her threat. Some gasped, some leaned closer, hungry for spectacle. The air crackled with tension, heavier than the pressurized cabin itself. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. She had crossed from entitled to dangerous, and I knew reason had no place here anymore. I caught the eye of a flight attendant, raising my hand. I need the captain, I said, voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. The attendant hesitated, then nodded, disappearing down the aisle. The woman smirked as though she'd already won. Her child wriggled, fussing, but she strapped the belt anyway, glaring at me with triumph. The hum of the engines beneath the cabin was a reminder that we hadn't even left the ground yet. And already, the flight was a battlefield. I leaned back, drawing a breath, feeling Buck's weight against me. The pilot was my friend. If anyone could cut through her delusion, it would be him. But until he arrived, we were trapped in this tense stalemate, me, Buck, and a woman who thought the world owed her everything. The cabin had gone quiet, every passenger holding their breath, waiting to see who would bend first. I didn't move. Neither did Buck. The stage was set, and the curtain hadn't even risen on the real fight yet. Before we dive deeper into what happened next, let me tell you, one of my absolute favorite stories I've ever shared is linked in the description and on the end screen. It's called Karen Said People Like You Shouldn't Sit in First Class. Didn't know I was the air marshal on board. If you haven't watched it yet, I highly recommend it, because that one was pure karma at 30,000 feet. Lauren's voice cut through the cabin like a blade, sharp and shrill enough to rattle nerves and draw more heads in our direction. She stood planted in the aisle, her daughter half buckled into Buck's seat as if she had staked a claim, her chest heaving with indignation. The hush of anticipation spread through the rows, that uneasy silence people carry when they know conflict is about to erupt but don't dare intervene. Every eye was on us. Every phone that had appeared earlier was still recording. Hungry for the moment, this verbal skirmish broke into spectacle. "You're unbelievable," she spat, her voice pitched high with outrage. "Do you even hear yourself? You're robbing a child of safety, just so your animal can lounge like royalty." I kept my tone even, steady, refusing to match her volume. "He isn't lounging. He's working. He's here for my health. And again, I paid for that seat." The words meant nothing to her. She laughed, a harsh, mocking sound, and turned her head to the nearest passengers. "Do you hear this? A grown man choosing a dog over a baby. This is the world we live in." She clutched her daughter tighter, eyes scanning the cabin for allies. "Somebody tell him he's insane." A few passengers avoided her gaze, sinking deeper into their seats. Others shook their heads, muttering under their breath. But the quiet was not the validation she craved. She wanted outrage to rise around her, to sweep me away in a tide of public shame. And when it didn't come, her frustration only grew sharper. One of the flight attendants approached cautiously, her polite smile straining under the tension. "Ma'am, I understand you're upset, but this gentleman did purchase that seat for his service animal. We cannot reassign it." Lauren's head snapped toward the attendant. "You're siding with him? With a dog? I have a child." She jabbed her finger toward the toddler, who was beginning to fuss, uncomfortable under the tight belt she wasn't supposed to occupy. What kind of airline policy favors animals over children? The attendant remained firm, though her voice softened. "Ma'am, infants under 2 fly as lap children. That is the ticket you purchased. If you wanted a separate seat for your daughter, you had the option to buy one at booking. This seat is not available." Lauren's expression hardened into something feral. So you're telling me, after all the money I spent, after dragging myself through security and lines with a baby, that I don't deserve the same respect as him? She turned back to me, eyes narrowing. You're pathetic. Hiding behind rules and paperwork. A real man would give up the seat without a fight. The accusation hit, but I let it pass over me like water over stone. I'm not hiding. I'm standing up for what I paid for. If you think the airline mistreated you, take it up with them. But don't steal from me. Her nostrils flared, and for a moment, she seemed ready to lunge. Instead, she yanked at the belt again, strapping her child tighter, forcing the buckle into place. I'm not moving. Try and stop me. The tension snapped taut, a wire stretched to breaking. Gasps rippled through the cabin, and phones tilted higher, recording openly now. The entire aircraft had become a stage, and Lauren was determined to play the tragic heroine. I leaned forward, lowering my voice so only she could hear. This isn't going to end the way you think. That only provoked her further. She raised her chin, voice booming down the rows. If he thinks he can threaten me, he's wrong. I have every right to keep my baby safe. And if this airline doesn't care, then shame on all of you. The murmurs of disapproval grew louder, though not directed at me. A young man too rose back, spoke up. Lady, you didn't buy the seat. End of story. Another passenger added, don't punish him for your mistake. Lauren whirled on them, face flushed. Stay out of this, she screeched. But the backlash she had been trying to stir was turning against her. She sensed it too, her eyes flicking with desperation. She tried again, tears welling suddenly, her voice trembling with rehearsed fragility. Please, I'm just a mother trying to protect my child. He doesn't understand how terrifying it is to fly with a baby. She stroked her daughter's hair, swaying theatrically. What kind of world are we living in when a dog matters more than a child? It was a performance, every word dripping with self-pity and manipulation. And though some passengers looked uneasy, most seemed unconvinced. Sympathy was slipping through her fingers. I exhaled slowly, letting Buck's steady presence anchor me. No one said your child doesn't matter, I replied, my tone measured. But rules matter. Fairness matters. You can't make your poor planning my responsibility. Her tears evaporated in an instant, replaced by raw anger. She hissed, if you don't let me use this seat, I'll make sure you regret it. The threat was the final straw. The flight attendant straightened. Her tone clipped now. Ma'am, you cannot threaten other passengers. If you don't cooperate, we will have to involve the captain. Lauren barked a bitter laugh. Fine. Bring him. I'd love to see what he has to say about this circus. She crossed her arms defiantly, planting herself in the aisle like a barricade. The attendant hurried off, tension rippling in her wake. The hum of the engines beneath the cabin seemed louder now, a reminder that takeoff loomed, yet the plane was frozen in this confrontation. Around us, the whispers sharpened into commentary. She's unbelievable. Entitled. This is going viral for sure. The glow of recording screens multiplied, catching every angle. Lauren either didn't notice or didn't care. She was too caught up in her conviction that she could win through sheer volume and spectacle. I sat motionless, my jaw tight, heart pounding. Buck shifted beside me, pressing against my leg, steady and unbothered, as if to say we'd weathered worse storms before. But my patience had limits. This wasn't about comfort anymore. This was about principle. Minutes stretched, each second louder in my chest than the last. Then, a ripple passed through the passengers near the front. Heads turned, whispers hushed. A uniformed figure appeared at the far end of the aisle, tall, commanding. His cap tilted forward beneath the bright cabin lights. The captain. Relief surged through me, not because the fight was over, but because it was about to be decided. Lauren, oblivious to the weight of what she had summoned, straightened with smug satisfaction. Finally, she said, loud enough for the whole plane to hear, someone who will understand. She didn't yet realize she had just invited the one person on board who could end her game with a single word. The captain's presence transformed the cabin in an instant. Conversations fell silent, phones held higher. passengers leaning into the aisles as if the show had reached its climax. His polished shoes clicked steadily against the floor as he approached, every step carrying authority that could not be questioned. His eyes moved first to me, then to Buck, then finally to the woman who stood puffed up in self-righteous defiance. "What's the situation here?" His voice was calm, but the steel beneath it was unmistakable. I rose halfway from my seat, keeping my tone measured. "Captain, I purchased this seat for my service dog. She is trying to take it for her child, despite not having bought a ticket for her." Lauren cut across me immediately, her voice shrill. "That's not true. I'm a mother, and this man is putting his dog above my baby. Look at her. She needs safety, not his mutt-wasting space." She thrust the toddler forward as if brandishing proof. "Are you really going to stand here and let this injustice happen?" The captain's expression didn't flicker. "Ma'am, did you purchase a ticket for your daughter?" Lauren hesitated, lips tightening. "She's under 2. She flies free on my lap. But that doesn't mean she shouldn't have her own seat if there's one available." His jaw set. "Seats are available to those who pay for them. This gentleman did. You did not." Her face flushed crimson, and for a moment I thought she might explode. "So you're siding with him? With a dog? What happened to compassion? What kind of captain are you?" The captain didn't flinch. "I'm the kind of captain who enforces fairness. And right now, you're attempting to occupy a seat that does not belong to you. That's theft." The word landed like a slap. Gasps rippled through the rows, and passengers exchanged knowing looks. The phones tilted closer, eager to catch the downfall in high definition. Lauren tried to recover, voice breaking into theatrical sobs. "Please, I'm begging you. Don't make me hold her the whole flight. It's dangerous, it's cruel. Just let us sit here." "Who will it hurt?" The captain's tone hardened. "What will hurt is allowing one passenger to trample the rights of another. You've been told repeatedly this seat is not yours. This is your final warning. Return to your assigned place, or you'll be removed from the aircraft." Her sobs dried as quickly as they had come. Her eyes narrowed into slits. "You wouldn't dare throw off a mother and child. That would be a PR disaster. The world would hate you for it." The captain didn't blink. "Ma'am, the world is already watching." His eyes flicked briefly toward the cluster of recording phones, and for the first time, a flicker of doubt crossed her face. Still, her pride would not release its grip. She jutted her chin, scooping her child closer. "Then let them watch. I'm not moving." The cabin held its breath. The captain spoke into his radio, crisp and final. "Gate security, cabin 1. Removal required." Chaos erupted as 2 uniformed officers boarded within minutes, their steps heavy, deliberate. Lauren shrieked, clinging to the armrests, her daughter wailing in confusion. "This is abuse. You can't do this to me. He's the one breaking rules, not me." Passengers booed. A chorus of voices rose. "Pay for your seat. Get off already." The crowd turning from passive observers to a tribunal of justice. Phones flashed, the scene immortalized from every angle. The officers pried her fingers from the seat. She kicked, she wailed, her hair falling loose, mascara streaking down her cheeks. The toddler cried louder, a tragic soundtrack to her mother's humiliation. Still, she was lifted, struggling, dragged down the aisle past rows of unsympathetic faces. One passenger called after her, "Bye, Karen." Laughter followed, cruel and final. The captain waited until she was gone, then straightened his uniform. His voice, once again calm, carried through the rows. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the delay. We'll be departing shortly." A cheer erupted, scattered claps echoing like the release of long-held tension. The energy shifted, relief washing over the cabin now that the storm had passed. I sank back into my seat, the tightness in my chest finally loosening. Buck pressed his head into my palm, his steady eyes a reminder that he'd been the calmest of us all. "Good boy," I whispered. "We made it." The captain leaned slightly toward me before turning to leave. "No one messes with my passengers," he said, a subtle smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Especially not my friends." As he disappeared back into the cockpit, the flight attendants moved quickly, smoothing over the chaos with offers of water and apologies. One set a complimentary drink voucher on my tray table. "You handled that incredibly well," she said softly. Around me, passengers murmured approval. A woman across the aisle leaned over. "Good for you. She thought she could bully you. Glad you stood your ground." I nodded politely, but inside I was still replaying the ordeal, the entitlement, the way she had weaponized her child as leverage. It wasn't about motherhood or safety, it was about control, and she had lost it spectacularly. The engines roared louder, signaling departure. The cabin lights dimmed, and as we pushed back for the gate, I allowed myself a final glance at the empty seat beside Buck. Justice had been restored, and the quiet was sweeter for it. Hours later, as the plane soared steady above the clouds, my phone buzzed with notifications. Curious, I opened one. There it was, a video already circulating online. The caption read, "Karen tries to steal service dog seat, gets kicked off flight." Millions of views were climbing by the minute. The footage showed Lauren shrieking, the captain's stern words, the moment security dragged her away. The comments section brimmed with outrage at her entitlement and applause for the outcome. The internet jury had spoken, and the verdict was unanimous. I leaned back, letting the hum of the engines lull me, a wry smile tugging at my lips. Buck shifted, resting his head against my knee, as if to remind me that the world outside the cabin still turned with chaos. But here, for now, order had been restored. The irony was sharp, almost laughable. If Lauren had simply purchased a seat for her daughter, none of this would have happened. She had gambled on arrogance, and arrogance had cost her everything. As the cabin darkened and passengers settled into quiet conversations and movies, I whispered the final thought aloud, though only Buck could hear me. Entitlement doesn't fly. And with that, the plane climbed higher, leaving the chaos and Lauren's humiliation far below. As the engines roared and the plane finally lifted off, I leaned back in my seat with Max curled loyally at my feet, his vest a quiet reminder of why I fought so hard. The cabin felt lighter, calmer, like everyone had witnessed a little slice of justice unfold right before their eyes. Lauren had strutted in thinking her entitlement would bend the rules, but in the end, it was her pride that got her kicked out for good. And I won't lie, watching her stomp down that aisle in defeat was one of the most satisfying sights of my life. Karma doesn't always come quickly, but when it does, it hits like turbulence you never see coming. If you enjoyed this story of instant karma, don't forget to like this video. Drop a comment sharing what you would have done. Share with friends and subscribe for more real-life dramas where justice always finds its way.